What's up, strongest men, women, and children from blocks all around the world? I am my block's strongest man, and today we're going to talk about the biggest surprises in the Shaw Classic 2020. Ciao, homie! Welcome to My Block's Strongest Man, where we bring attention to the world of strongman and show you how you can mimic those activities using everyday objects all around your own property. If you haven't done so yet, consider subscribing and remember to hit that bell button for all notifications so you'll know whenever I provide all the valuable content every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So without further ado, on to today's topic. So I wanted to start this as a versus series, Biggest Surprise 1 versus Biggest Surprise 2, and we talk about which of those two is a bigger surprise, and then you tell me in the comments below whether you think I'm crazy or you're on board, and what your reasons are for picking the biggest surprise of the Shaw Classic 2020. So today we're going to talk about the bigger surprise, Brian Shaw winning his own Shaw Classic, or Oleksii Novikov not winning the Shaw Classic. Those are the two that I'm going to compare today. So we're going to start off first with how I did against my predictions, and we'll quickly go through that, and then we'll talk about some of the other ancillary parameters that come into a discussion like this. So first of all, Oleksii Novikov, I had picked to win the Shaw Classic. So let's discuss why he didn't and where I was off, whether I was off by a lot or not. So I had him coming in with 6 points on the log press, and he in fact ended up with only a share of 3.5 points on the log press. So a big disparity there. Still 400 pounds, so a very good press. Then I had him slated to get 9 points or second place in the yoke. How did he actually do in the yoke? He got first place, 10 points in the yoke. So, sort of balancing out a little in the other way. In the farmers, I had Oleksii picked to win, and in the deadlift, I had him picked to win. And this is where it starts to fall apart a bit. In the farmers, he got 4 points. So, way off kind of from where I thought. And in the deadlift, he ties for a share of 5.5 points with Brian Shaw. So, in the deadlift, I kind of thought that this Hummer tire deadlift would be a direct kind of correlation with the world record he just set on the train axle deadlift at World's Strongest Man. That one being 18 inches. This one was said to be 12 inches. I guess not exactly a direct correlation. He had a great lift, but not near the top of the pack, and so that was another place where we fell short. Circus, he did really well. He actually won the circus, and I think I had picked him to come in second in the circus if we look again. And that is true. I had him picked to tie for second, so got that one correct. And then in Atlas Stones, I had picked him for 7 points there, which would be fourth place, and he did get the 7 points in the Atlas Stones. So a couple of places, probably, 2 places where I was pretty dead on, and the other ones where he underperformed, and that's what ended up landing Oleksii in third place instead of winning the show where I thought he would. Now, that being said, what happened with Brian Shaw? How did he end up winning when I didn't think he would? And let's keep facts straight, right? I had them both on the podium. They just transposed number 1 and number 3, so it's not like a guy went from my prediction of 10th place to winning or anything like that, but it is a bit of a surprise that the World's Strongest Man winner from just a few weeks ago didn't win the next big international show that he competed in, and that Brian Shaw, who only placed 5th in World's Strongest Man, did win it. So those are surprises, and we'll talk about some of the other parameters that go into that. So, looking at Brian, I had him with 3.5 points in the log. Brian ends up with 8 points in the log. He does way, way better than I thought he would do based on his World's Strongest Man performance. They had the grip shirts. I don't know if maybe that made a difference, but that would have been a difference for everybody. He actually, I don't know if you guys saw the video where Brian gave everybody goodie bags, kind of like he put all the guys up in hotels and left them with like big duffel goodie bags, and Luke Stoltman showed it on his channel where he showed all the stuff that was in there, and that grip shirt was in there, and a bunch of different kind of athletic equipment that was really cool of him to set up to make the guys comfortable was included as well. So if we go back to how I thought Brian would do in the Super Yoke, Brian has traditionally always done really well in Super Yoke and didn't do so well at it in World's Strongest Man compared to the other guys. And I thought it was maybe not that he couldn't handle the weight, but just he's a little too methodical sometimes in getting going. And so I said he would get 4 points in the super yoke, and Brian, in fact, got 8 points in the super yoke, proving me wrong. It wasn't even something that everybody was able to complete. So, like Maxime, for example, did not complete the super yoke. So Brian really outperformed my prediction on super yoke, which catapulted him up. If we go to farmers, he got 7 points, which would be 4th place in the farmers, and I had predicted Brian to get only 4 points. So again, way overperforming what I had predicted based on what I saw in World's Strongest Man. Then if we go to the deadlift, Brian ends up with only a share of 3.5 points in my prediction. What did he really do? He really did a share of 5.5 points. So not, he didn't win the event by any means, but 2 points better than what I thought is not nothing. And then, of course, in the circus, he ends up with 9 points just behind Novikov, and I had them transposed. So I had Brian winning and Oleksii getting a share of 2nd place in the dumbbell, and what actually happened was kind of transposed. Oleksii won and Brian got 2nd place in the dumbbell. Then moving on to the Atlas Stones, of course, Brian has that incredible performance in the last event when everybody else is tired and just blows through all 6 Atlas Stones, winning that event with 10 points, which in my prediction, I had said that Brian would win the Atlas Stone, so I got that one correct. So a couple of predictions I got right for Novikov, one I got right for Brian, and it was really far off on some of the other ones. So which one is a bigger surprise? Well, let's talk about some of the other things that go into that decision. One, a lot of people were saying Brian has the home gym advantage. He lives at this elevation. He's used to the thin air. Of course, he's going to outperform everybody. And, there's that kind of thing. So oxygen bottles were provided for all of the guys, and I gotta say, I think I only saw, was it Jerry Pritchett or Kevin Ferris, use it during the dumbbell press, and everybody else was using it afterwards, so it's not like, I don't think they were out of air during any of these events. Yeah, did they gas out toward the ends of them? Maybe, but I didn't see anything happen during the recordings that I saw in Shaw Elite Club to indicate this guy would have won an event that he didn't win because of the thin air. And, also that affects everybody except for Brian. So for example, Brian, if we go to the actual results, Brian Shaw won one event, the Atlas Stones. It's not like the thin air advantage let him win everything. He didn't. In fact, I have an events 1 counter here, and Novikov won 2 events. Brian won 1, along with JF winning 1, and Jerry Pritchett winning 1, and Luke Stoltman winning 1. So there are four guys total who won 1 event, one of them being Brian. It's not like he dominated people because of thin air. So I don't think that reasoning really holds too much water. Then there's kind of the idea of, well, forget the thin air thing, but it's in his gym with his equipment, so he's used to this equipment. He's been training with it all along. And again, from everything I saw with the delivery videos that he showed, Rogue jumped on board as a sponsor really late in the game, what was it, within a week of the event happening, and they made, kind of matching yokes and matching pieces of equipment for everybody. So Brian did not have this all along, nor was he training or getting used to this equipment. The Hummer tire deadlift bar with the tires was all custom made. There's only 2 in the world from what he said, one that he has and one that was used at the Arnold Strongman Classic. So I don't buy into that argument of this is Brian's equipment that he's used to at all. The one surprise I would say is that anyone who was expecting the Hummer tire deadlift to be closer to 18 inches might have been surprised to see there was a platform in the middle. So kind of the tires lay on the sides, and then there's a platform you stand on, so it makes the bar lower than it otherwise would be by, I don't know, whatever those pieces of plywood are. If he had three plywoods, 3 inches, or whatever that is, maybe a little less than that. But anyway, I think they said it equated to a 12-inch deadlift instead of 18. So that might have been a surprise to some guys. But anyway, maybe that goes to prove some of the stuff you hear on the internet about Novikov being really good kind of from the second half up on deadlifts, but not as strong as the top guys in the world from the floor. And, this might feed into that particular thing. So, we got the thin air argument out. We got the home court kind of equipment argument out. let's look at the Oleksii side of the equation. So was it surprising that he didn't win after just winning a major event? His Instagram showed him getting like some shoulder therapies done. I think I saw a syringe of some sort, and he basically said this is all normal maintenance and things like that. But I did hear of him making some comments throughout this competition that, you know, I was tired and this and that. So maybe he wasn't at peak condition. It could have been from still recovering from his World's Strongest Man output, or it could have been that that shoulder thing was more than maybe he let on. I don't know. It's all conjecture. But, you know, I think that maybe I expected a little too much of him to be able to repeat a win so quickly after just giving so much of himself at a big competition. And, you know, you can tell that even in microcosm with Jerry Pritchett, who at one point was leading the Shaw Classic and gave so much of himself during that deadlift attempt that he didn't have that much left for the last two events and ended up slipping from first to fifth between the fourth and the sixth events. So, you know, recovery is a real thing, and that might just be why he didn't do as well as I thought he would do. But, you know, again, he kind of... For me, the biggest slip-up or difference from my prediction is I thought he would win the deadlift, and so going from expecting him to get 10 points on the deadlift to 5.5 is a big difference. And there are a couple other places where he didn't do as well either. Like I said, the Farmers, for example, I expected him to win the Farmers, and he ends up with 4 points on the Farmers. That's a huge difference as well. So just some various areas where I used the most recent data I had available, and he just didn't perform up to those particular standards. So, which one of those is a bigger surprise? Brian Shaw winning his own Shaw Classic inaugural contest, or Oleksii Novikov, the reigning World's Strongest Man, not winning the next major well, I don't think it's classified as a major competition yet, but the next international competition that he enters? Which one is a bigger surprise to you? I say the bigger surprise is Brian Shaw winning. Brian Shaw was written off by many people on the internet after his World's Strongest Man output or placing, who said, like, look, this is a pattern over the last few years, and it's a downward trend. He's on the latter half of his career, down the side of the hill, and he's never going to win again. And, you know, some people will say, well, this was his own event. It doesn't count. I think it does count. Like, you have to look at the merit and the quality of the events that he picked, how hard they were. These were not easy weights. He did well across the board. He did consistently across the board, and he proved you can win a competition with only winning 1 out of the 6 events. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Trey Mitchell won 0 events and came in 4th. Like, consistency means a lot. And actually, if you compare the two, I should do a video about that too. Trey Mitchell seems to have modeled his deadlift style after Brian. The other thing I'll say as to why I think Brian did well here is, and this is typically a knock on him, you know, he's very methodical, and that can be a compliment, but people say sometimes he can overthink things. And, you know, that may have affected him at World's Strongest Man with the yoke and maybe some of the speed events, like he lost split seconds that really mattered. But in this case, I think that the methodical approach, like if you watch him approach his deadlift, I think it took him 1 minute and 40 seconds to walk to the bar and actually lift it. He was taking over twice as long as some of the other guys. But, like, you get your breath when you do that. You can rest up that much more. And, like, in certain events, not enough running Farmers, but in a deadlift, like, that matters a lot. And so I don't think it was any kind of home court advantage or anything like that. I think that he really thought things through and totally switched around his way of thinking and focus from what he brought to World's Strongest Man, which most people thought was kind of a pattern in his career and he was done and over with. And that's why I say it's the biggest surprise. Everyone was saying he has multiple businesses now. He's focused in way too many areas, like losing those split seconds of focus in a speed event can cost you multiple places. And, like, in the midst of all that was going on and having to do along with his wife Carrie, all of the administration of this, multifaceted event to put together, he's surprisingly and shockingly brought a better focus than he did to an event where he didn't have to plan any of this kind of stuff at World's Strongest Man. So that's why I feel it's the bigger of the two surprises. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I look forward to hearing from you, and of course, until next time, ciao, homie. So if you like this video and want to learn more about any of the products I described during this video, make sure to check out the links in the description below. So if you like this video and haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing using that button right there. And also, stay tuned for some other videos that you might love blooping up right there. This one is the one that YouTube thinks that you will like the best, and this one is the one that I think you will like the best. As always, share this with everyone, and until next time, ciao, homie.